Hey, happy Thursday. Let's get this started. My name is Adam, product designer at AngelList on the venture team. I guess I'm just showing me right now. Maybe I'll show this other thing over here. Practice. There we go. There's me, product designer AngelList, and doing the stream weekly to take questions, help people out, share some cool stuff, and have a little bit of fun each week. Hey Matt, I see you. I'm playing with chat in a different location. Hopefully this keeps me more like eyes up. Venagu, I see you too. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'll be curious to hear about stream quality. I noticed my internet speed is really not great. I'll show you how poor quality it is. Normally I'm not using Wi-Fi. I'm hardwired to my modem, and I didn't have time to reset anything. I thought, oh, if I reset, it's just going to be a big long delay. So we'll try it like this. But yeah, it's like half the download speed. Pretty much everything's like cut in half. So I don't know if anyone has experience with AT&T's fiber internet, but that just became available, I think, in my neighborhood. So that might be something I need to look into more. Alrighty. Let's dive in. I'm trying to see, what did I put for the agenda for this event? Still trying to get used to the agenda. Q&A, designer show and tell, lightning portfolio review, maybe, and design project. Oh my goodness, and my phone is almost out of battery too. Oh, man, falling apart. Oh, good news. I've been upgraded or downgraded splint-wise, upgraded hand movement-wise. Now I can do two-handed typing. Last Friday, I saw a doctor, and I have to wear this for 4 weeks. But once that 4 weeks is up, hopefully, I'll be back and good as new. So excited about that. Let's see, a couple things to plug. Questions. If you have a question, you can ask me anything, but I'm especially interested in design-related questions or career work-related questions. Whoops. I almost posted this link in the questions. So I think what anyone who was here last time, the Slido thing has this fixed date, but it looks like you can still add. I did a test, and it looks like you can still add questions and potentially upvote questions. So if anyone has a chance, pop into that link and see if you can upvote a question, see if you can add a question. Because if that's the case, then I can just keep using this question even though the date range has expired. So that's that. So I'll keep that in there for questions, and then I'll try to tackle a handful of these in a moment. A couple plugs. So I'll leave a few minutes. I think this is probably going to be the regular cadence of questions. Announce the questions, share the link, give people a few minutes to put their questions in, put their votes in. Thanks, Matt. I see Matt and Rita have been putting in some good questions. I'm looking forward to those. And then I'll just do a few quick plugs. Number one, whoa, way zoomed in AngelList. AngelList, we're hiring. We've got, I know my team is hiring for engineers. We've also got product design roles open on the talent side, and a bunch of interesting jobs that you or someone you know might be really interested in. Of course, we also have tons of other awesome startups and companies posting jobs on AngelList. So I'm gonna post this link here. Check out AngelList, AngelList at AngelList, and also other companies at AngelList if you're thinking about what else is out there and what might help you make the next step in your career. There's lots of great opportunities on AngelList. The other thing I want to plug is going to be a location-specific plug. So apologies if you're not in the San Francisco Bay Area or it's not convenient for you to come to the San Francisco Bay Area for an event. But if you are in the San Francisco Bay Area, I want to plug Draft and Draw, which is co-hosted, co-founded by one of my colleagues at AngelList on the talent team, Shane. He has been doing this in New York a bunch of times, and it's coming to San Francisco, and I'm super excited. It's Friday, June 14th. I'm trying to invite everyone I can think of who I think might enjoy hanging out and doing some drawing. Also super pumped because Alice Lee, who you know her work, you've seen her work on Slack and other things. She's gonna be there. She's gonna do a little. I see. She's got iPad and pencil. This is interesting. I'll talk about a new project that a new side thing I'm starting at work. That's kind of inspired by this, but super interesting getting back to analog drawing and illustrating. So she's going to be there. It's going to be great. What else do you get? You get Alice's favorite tool. You get a pint glass. You get a print. You get some beer, some pizza. You're going to have fun. I don't know what else I can do to sell this. It's going to be a great event. It's at Wix in the city. They're hosting. I think you can see some things from past events. I'm super excited about this. I've been tweeting about it, and I don't want anyone to miss it who might be able to attend and who has interest. Also, I guess if you're in New York, it's also kind of a plug because this Draft and Draw happens to be in San Francisco, but usually they're in New York. So if New York is more convenient, or if you happen to be in New York, check out Draft and Draw. Sign up for their newsletter so you get pinged when a new event is coming up. Highly, highly recommend. Draft and Draw, super excited. I guess what do I have here? I have the link to the actual registration. I'll put that in there too. Boom. All right. And if I see Venegu's like, oh, kind of bummed, like not so easy to take a flight to San Francisco. One of the things you could think about is organizing your own like Draft and Draw or whatever and draw. I'm not actually big on drinking. I don't like beer at all. So I'm probably not going to be doing much alcohol consumption, but I'm really interested in just getting together and having some time carved out to draw and doodle and have fun with other people. So definitely nothing stopping people from doing this on their own, participating remotely. Just schedule your own block of time on your calendar on Friday, do some doodling, and participate in spirit as well, or start your own little meetup. Get your own group together and have some fun like this. One thing that this got me thinking about, this Draft and Draw, is doing more drawing. I got an iPad for the explicit purpose of trying to pick up the habit of drawing more. And so one thing that I'm starting is I'm bringing my iPad into work, and each day I plan to give it to another designer with a set time. You have X amount of minutes. Just have fun like doodling. We're using an app called Procreate, which is a weird name. Let's see if I can find it real quick. There we go. It's got all this. We don't need that. We can just grab this. So of course you see like these really crazy, amazing things that people are doing in the app, it's like, all right, this is not even, wow. This is like crazy high level. The stuff that I'm doing are like simple line drawings. But yeah, maybe I can, once we start getting some sketches, I'll ask the rest of the team if they're comfortable with having those things shared. Maybe we can think about putting some of these things on Dribbble as well, but I'll be excited to share more, definitely, of the things that I'm doing as this fun way of collaborating with the team asynchronously and just exploring some of those skills that tap into a little bit different part of your brain than when you are typing or making rectangles and boxes on Sketch. Alrighty, let's check in on questions. I'm just gonna, I don't know if it automatically refreshes, so I'm gonna refresh it. Cool, it looks like we've got 5 questions that have been voted up. That seems like a decent number of questions. Let's dive in and start with those. It's interesting that they have, how do they vote? How do they sort these? I guess maybe by when they were submitted, because they all have the equal number of votes. All right, first question. Let's take it back to, let's do the webcam, and there we go. It's just me. Venugu says, so is Procreate doodling to be used eventually, or is it just for a fun thing? So the idea that I have is really just for fun. It's for fun. We had a designer team lunch the other day, and everyone on the team had told like some story about in the past how they like to express themselves creatively, and I've been missing out on that for quite a while and excited about the opportunity. So it was really like self-serving. The idea is like, oh, can I get a couple other designers interested in doing this who would help hold me accountable to participating in this? That would be fantastic. Also, if there's a small, it only requires a small amount of time, like you have 5 minutes or you have 10 minutes, that'll make it easier. So I think the idea is just to have fun and get comfortable sharing things that may not be polished, may be rough, and just to exercise those doodling, drawing, illustration skills. All right, diving into the questions from the question board. Matt asks, what are some examples of design constraints? So thinking about considering constraints and how constraints could help, what are some examples of design constraints? So I think the first thing I'll start with is just addressing a question. Someone might say, well, what are design constraints and why are they useful? So the what, I'll do the why first. Why design constraints? Well, a constraint is anything that limits you, right? So a design constraint is something that limits you in your ability to make design decisions or take specific design directions, right? So why would you use design constraints? One reason you might use design constraints is to help you focus on what's important, is to help you avoid thinking or spending time on things that are less important, to simplify the task in front of you. Those are a handful of reasons why I use design constraints. Design systems, in fact, to me are one of the most maybe trendy or popular examples of design constraints. I think that's a great example of design constraints. Let's actually look at like a really popular framework. So Get Bootstrap. I'm going to use this to talk about design constraints. Let me switch my, there we go. So we're looking at Bootstrap. I'll put the link here. And I'm gonna go into the documentation a little bit and talk about things like, what's a really easy one to show? Here we go, like grid. Is there anything that shows all of the grid options? Well, this shows many things, but here we go. Here's a simple thing. Basically, Bootstrap uses a 12-column grid, and if you're using a grid is a type of design constraint. It's an example of a design constraint because it says that, hey, any elements that you're creating can be any number of these predefined column widths up to 12 columns. And that's it. So if you want to do, right, 3 columns, you want 3 elements in a row that each take up the same amount of space. Cool. This is your constraint. This is how much room you have to work with. So that's a pretty obvious one. There are other things like, I'm going to go into, like, here we go. Here's another set of constraints in terms of colors, right? So we have alerts. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different alert constraints. So if you say, hey, we're using the Bootstrap, we're using vanilla or basic Bootstrap styles as our design, as some design constraints, as our design system, then as a designer, you don't need to say like, I need to figure out an orange alert. You may say, well, applying very simple rules, you say, well, there are no orange alerts. There's this kind of yellow alert. That's what we use for warnings. So you don't need to think about what color should this warning alert be because you have these constraints. You have this color, you've associated it with a specific warning thing. So you know that warning stuff will be this color. It's not going to be orange. It's not going to be gold. It's not going to be, pink or purple or some other color. You have those already defined here. Let me try to pull out, hopefully this gets the gist of types of design constraints. I'll talk about maybe something that doesn't show up as well. Let's give an example that doesn't show up as just part of a design system. And that would be time, for example. So one constraint you could put on yourself is time, like a deadline. Hey, we're going to spend, 1 week on figuring this out. Whatever we have at the end of the week, that's what we're going to start implementing. That's a type of constraint, right? What are some other non-visual constraints? A lot of constraints could come up in terms of requirements. So we must do this. We're absolutely not going to do this. So, maybe you're tasked with redesigning the Bootstrap documentation, and you say, hey, we're going to look at really making it even more comfortable to read and even more accessible. Maybe there will be some additional functionality for accessibility with screen readers and other things, or just a really simple experience with keyboard. Things we're not going to do, we're not going to remove ads, for example. So don't spend any time thinking about how we might change or modify or remove ads from one place to another. Don't touch ads. Those are all examples of design constraints. I mean, you can go on. There's no like, oh, this is the set of 10 design constraints. But you can use them to help you focus, to save you from making a lot of micro decisions, and that's design constraints. I'll try to be thoughtful as I work on projects to call out what design constraints am I engineering into my process to help me, and why. I think that's a really interesting question. And I'd love to hear, what do you do for design constraints? How are you helping yourself focus or avoiding making a lot of little micro decisions so that you can focus on the more important ones? Boom. All right. How do I wish there was an easy way to say like check. Got that one. All right, next. An anonymous individual asks, what are the differences designing for mobile, web, and apps? For mobile. Okay, so web, got it. So it's like responsive design and like mobile apps. Really, another way to ask this question is just, what are the differences designing for people using a website or an app on a mobile device? I think there's a lot of, this is a good one to like Google, and there are a lot of good books and resources out there. I guess I can look for one. I don't have anything that jumps into my mind that's just like, oh, this is like the great book to think about mobile. But I will highlight a few special differences to think about that are really important. The first is like how people use their phone, right? Let me switch. How we use our phone, right? We've got our phones, our smartphones, many times like one-handed, right? One-handed usage. So there's a range of motion and a range of places where I can tap that's very easy to tap. There's also places that I simply cannot reach, right? With my thumb. I either have to bring in another hand or I have to hold it and like slide my hand up and move it. So the way that you're interacting and where you're placing things is much different, requires a much different focus. Other things just to be really thoughtful about are typography. There's big differences in typography for designing for a computer screen that's like 24 inches away from your eyes versus this phone that's right in front of your face, right? Typography, the size of buttons and other things that you want people to interact with their fingers, right? Your finger is, I'm pretty sure everyone's finger is larger than the default tiny mouse cursor. Now, I think my mouse cursor is probably, is this a typical mouse cursor size, or did I bump mine up? I don't even remember. I feel like I made mine larger. No mouse. What is it? Trackpad? I love doing little tangential stuffs like this. So there's no mouse. What is it? How do you change the mouse cursor size? Cursor size. Oh, accessibility. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so my cursor is a little bit bigger. Oh yeah, wow, that's so tiny. That feels so tiny to me. Cool. So yeah, my cursor is a little bit larger. By default, cursors are a lot more laser accurate, right? You're clicking literally on the little point versus tapping things with your thumb. Other important things to understand, like the situations where people use their phone, it's often quite different than sitting down. If you're designing something where most of your users are sitting down and looking at a computer, that's quite different than, oh, I pulled out my phone for 1 minute while I'm standing in line somewhere. So situational context, lighting situations, right? Oftentimes when people are using a computer, they're in a place where the lighting is at least consistent. Whereas if you're on your phone, you could be out and about, you could be in dark places, you could be in extremely bright places outside with the sun. And that has an impact on contrast and color. So I know those aren't all of the differences in thinking about designing for mobile, web, and app, but hopefully that's a decent list. I thought of one more that's also very important is speed, right? The size of files, right? If you have a very, very large image file, depending on people's wireless access and their speed of connectivity, designing for mobile and delivering that really fast experience can mean things like making sure you're serving the right size image for the phone. You're not serving the 3 megabyte version for the giant television or huge external monitor. You are displaying something that is only going to be, at the maximum as wide as this little phone. All right. Next, Rita asks, how do you prepare for the parts that come with interviews? Phone screening, portfolio review, and design exercise. Great. So I love that she says you, because then I get to answer this personally. I don't think there's a right way to prepare for these different things. I think people will find what works best for them. I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that I do in terms of the behaviors and activities that I've done that, for me, I've seen positive results and success from. So, for me, I remember this is about preparing, not necessarily doing the phone screen, doing the portfolio, doing the design exercise, but preparing for these aspects of the interview process. So for phone screens, for me, what I like to do is, in preparation, is come up with my answers to common responses. So I'm pretty sure the person is going to ask me a little bit about, who are you? Like, why are you in design? Tell me your story. Tell me a little bit about yourself. That kind of prompt. So having some bullet point ideas and practicing just talking a little bit about myself in a very concise way, and also a way that focuses on the overlap between my story and the story that the company is telling. So I can squeeze in little phrases and sentences and keywords that identify with that company specifically, and still keep to my, overall, here's who I am, here's what I've been doing, here's my theme, here's my trend. I think other people do this too. I've heard this from at least a couple other people, is trying to identify the trend. So I think one question that people have in their mind and sometimes ask, especially recruiters and hiring managers, is like, okay, cool. Like, I can see your past work experience on LinkedIn. What's the trend? What's the story? Like, what is your career about, to date, and where are you looking to go in the future? So figuring out what are those things that tie your past experience together, and looking for commonalities and speaking to that is something that helps me. Other things for just prep for phone screen, get in a quiet place ahead of time. So I always try to do my best to hang out in the place where I'm going to take the phone call and get comfortable. This is simple things like going to the bathroom before you're going to do any of these things. Phone screen, portfolio review. Make sure you're really comfortable. Have some water to drink. Things that can be helpful in public speaking, I find are also helpful on the phone, especially since they can't see me. And actually, I'll come back to that in a second. But like power poses, yes, yeah, there's a handful of power poses. Just Google power poses and you'll find several of them that can help you just kind of get your energy up, boost your positivity and focus, and just get you in a good mindset for really having an enjoyable conversation. I think that's a big part of it too, is having fun. Like, there really is no pressure. Like, you have, at least as, this company needs you more than you need them. And so you're also interviewing them. So get excited about, sharing about your own story and how you think you might fit in with the role that you're interviewing for or phone screening for. and also prepare a number of questions that will help you start to learn what you need to know to feel confident about making a decision like, is this that place? Is this my next step? So I think another thing I introduced there was the preparing of questions. All right, and then one thing I wanted to loop back with was the phone screen in general. If possible, what I always do is I try to get people on a video call. I find that face-to-face is more enjoyable. I have a better sense. I have more signals in terms of body language. I can tell like, oh, is this person leaning forward and really getting interested about a specific thing I'm saying? Are they looking distracted or bored or tired? Am I losing it? So I always invite phone screeners to say like, hey, do you want to set up a video chat? That's something maybe a little special. All right, portfolio review. How do I prepare for that? That one's a whole nother topic. Actually, I want to tackle that one on its own, maybe another time, because I know I had shared a little bit about this last week. So if you're looking for some highly actionable things or specific examples of what I've done for preparing for portfolio review in terms of making the actual presentation and kind of a T-shaped presentation, check out last week's episode and scroll through. I think you can look for the transcript. You can look for text to see when I'm talking about that, because that'll be good. So I'm gonna skip that section because I'll talk all day about that. And then the last part, design exercises. This is the one I feel least comfortable like talking about preparation. Like I don't have a lot of great experiences with like take-home design exercises. In fact, I associate them with companies that I'm not super excited to work with, and I don't have the best interview experience. So I know companies are asking to do design exercises. I think some companies can get away with it if people are that interested in it. Like I know Google is big. I think they're still big on design exercises. I know I did one years ago when I had applied for a job at Google. I'm trying to think of some of the other companies where I've done design exercises. Mixpanel. I think the companies that are the most forward and aren't overwhelmed by demand, right? Like for in Google's case, it might be a function of just helping filtering out. Like, oh, there's a design exercise. Guess what? 8 out of 10 designers will say like, nah, and they self-select out. Cool. That's, far fewer applicants to deal with. So I don't have very good design exercise prep advice outside of reach out to people who are at the company who have done design exercises or may review design exercises for some tips and tricks. The other like piece of advice I have is just like, keep in mind, like companies that are making you design exercises, this is my personal opinion, maybe aren't a super awesome companies to do design for. I think the challenge about design exercise is like you're sharing something. Like there's no way of like the company knows that that's work that you've done 100%. They're also asking you to do what's essentially spec work and saying, hey, do this project, right? And they all say like, oh, don't spend more than X amount of hours on it. And I think the implied thing is like everybody is going to spend 40 hours on this when they say don't spend more than 2. So if you only spend 2, you're competing against people who spent 40 hours on it. And they're asking you to do that spec work. So try to get around. Maybe the better advice is try to get around the design exercise. work more on the networking and connections so that you can potentially skip the design exercise and getting to the next step in the process. If I were to come across a situation next time where I heard a company had a design exercise as part of their process and it was something I was really excited about, that's what I would do. I would say, all right, I'm going to double down on networking and making really strong connections so that I can skip this design exercise piece. All right. Hopefully that's a few actionable things for phone screen, a few ideas around preparing for design exercise, and the portfolio review I'm going to tackle at another time. All right, how are we doing for time? Is the audience hanging with me? I don't have a sense of how this reads. Like, it's me just talking. Let me know if I'm rambling on too much or if this is not interesting enough. I will switch gears. Otherwise, I'm going to get through these next two that have votes. Matt asks, I like the idea of switching back to the question. Matt asks, zooming in here, could you explain line height with typography and how to use it properly? Cool. So this is a more specific question that I can speak to. Line height specifically, let's pull up Sketch. Let me open Sketch up. Let's see. I'll get the file open and I'll show and tell. Oh no, new sketches. Open. All right. Let me just do this real quick. I think it'll be fast. I don't know what's new in the new sketch. Okay, so line height. Let's create an artboard here. And let's get this centered. Great. I'll make some big text here. Does that show up fairly well? All right, I'm gonna have to go. This will maybe be one of my smaller text examples. Trying to gauge how that looks on the screen as it's sharing. All right, that's gonna be small. That's gonna be medium. And let's come up with a couple larger ones, maybe times 1.5, 96, cool. And then let's multiply this by times 1.5 again, boom. All right, cool. So here are my typographic examples. I'm not gonna have all of them be bold. Let's have, there we go, two headings, and this is maybe like a paragraph text and some smaller text. So specifically what line height is referring to in Sketch, at least, is the height of this box. So I see the height is 175 pixels. Guess what? My line height down here, it may be hard to see. It has this low contrast placeholder text that says 175. And we can see the impact of it if I increase it to, I guess I'll increase it to something really big. When I select it, now the box is much bigger, right? It was 175, now my line height is 500. So that's what line height is. And I guess actually to see it in play, I need to do some things that have 2 lines of text. So does anyone have a favorite phrase, something that's 2 lines? I'll just say today's Thursday, May, oh, I need to have a, what is it, May 30th? 2019. And all right, we need to fix this width. Let's cap it at, fixed width at 900. No, we're gonna do 1400. Cool. All right, So this is going to be our text string. I'm going to copy that and paste it into these other things. And why 700 still isn't? 800. There we go. All right, I'm trying to get things on multiple lines. Raj is in the house. I'm sorry, Mr. Raj. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see you doing well. Whoops. All right. Cool. 3 lines. Great. We'll do that. And let's do this one. 800. Oh, wow. That lines up perfect. Cool. So another thing that we can see about line text that's important is it's the amount of space between the lines as well. So for example, right now we have 175. If I do 500, there's significantly more space in between the lines of text. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. That's line height. That's what it is. But if we go back, can you explain line height with typography, how to use it properly? So, how to use it properly, I'll speak to this. These are more like tips for improving typography. In general, when text is larger, you can decrease the amount of space between the lines. For example, assuming this is paragraph text, and maybe I should just grab some lorem ipsum stuff. It might make it easier. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. So the text is 64 pixels. What I'm going to do is apply a fairly generous 1.5 multiplier. So I do 64 times 1.5 in Sketch. That's 96. Oh, I should have the before and after. Make this work. If I clear that out, now I have auto. I think on your screen, this should look more comfortable in terms of reading, right? There's a more comfortable amount of space, and this looks tighter. I'll do the same thing down here. 48 times 1.5, 72. Okay, clear it out. And you can see the difference. So in general, that's my like tactic, or how to apply line height properly, is really to either increase the amount of line height or decrease the amount of line height to improve legibility and reading comfort. So if I did the same thing here, so I'm going to make this even bigger so we can see all this stuff. All right, let's duplicate these two. I'll learn from my past efforts. If I apply the same 144 times 1.5 and 96 times 1.5, in this case, you're probably, for these very large headings, you might see that, oh, actually, the ones on the left look better, right? They read better, they feel better. There's something you're tuning into, and just your aesthetic processing in your brain is saying this is better than this. So the larger the font size, the smaller the line height you can get to have things looking really tight aesthetically. And the smaller your font size, the larger your line height can be to do comfortable reading. And I have some very basic, you can search online for other guidelines and numbers. If you're just looking for a line in the sand, I'll talk about 3 line heights that I use as a default, and then I'll tweak, because depending on the typeface or the font that you're using, it's going to be different, right? No 2 fonts have quite the same like X height and other qualities that are going to affect their legibility and the ideal or optimal line height for them. So my default that I use for paragraph text, so this is right, this default for paragraph is 1.5. And I think let me look, I'm gonna go look at my website, because I forget if I use M's, if I do 1.5 M, or if I just use 1.5. So I'm coming down here, I'm looking for line height. Oh, I have a variable set. Oh, I guess I'll show you so you can see. I'm looking at this link right here and trying to find line height, and I see that in the body I have line height. I see the default Bootstrap line height is 1.5. I have it set to this variable of line height comfortable, which, oh cool, I can mouse over it. Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't realize I could do this in DevTools. You can mouse over it, it tells you the value. So I have mine set to 1.6, and you notice it's like LH comfortable. If I go down to my variables, I should be able to see, here's what I have. It looks like for my own, show all properties one more, I have these 3, which don't map to my typical defaults, but for the font that I'm using, I tweaked it a little bit and looked to see what looked good to me. And so I came up with these values. Comfortable 1.6, condensed 1.3, dense 1.1. You'll notice that's going to be a little bit different than the simple kind of math that I apply over here. So one of the simplest scales you can do is just divide 5 by 2. So now you have 1.5, 1.25, and then 1.125. This is a really, if you're just starting out with default, like this is probably going to get you somewhere in a decent range. Right? And this is more like headings. Maybe we don't call this default, we call this, what did I use? What were those variable names I used? Comfortable, condensed, dense. If anyone has better naming ideas, I'd love to know. I don't know that there's any standard in terms of naming those things, but it could be default. You could do default, comfortable, and condensed. Right? It doesn't matter what these names are, but these are usually for like larger text, H1, and largest text. Comfortable might be for H2 to H4, and larger text, and default, right? Paragraph and smaller text. My artboard is not big enough to accommodate my messaging. But yeah, so that's line height. Like you can visually see the difference in line height, and those are the simple tactics. As font size increases, for aesthetic purposes, reduce the line height, and as text gets smaller, increase the line height. Makes sense? Awesome. Whoa, what? Oh, what is it? I see people are talking about maybe Matt's homepage, his portfolio, the scroll thing. Awesome. Glad you guys are helping out. I love it. Love to see it. Okay. I think there was one more question that had a vote. Anonymous. This is a really interesting question. When starting a new design job, what are some actions you try to take in your first week? And I feel like I get a little bit better at this each time I start a new design job. Because hopefully I'm learning from past experiences and building on those. And so a few things that I do. Let me highlight this. What's a good way to like highlight this when I talk about it? Is it better to have... Is this better or is this better? Just me talking about it. So starting a new design job, some actions I try to take in my first week. One action, get time with as many people as I can. Like meet people, talk with them, find out what they do, try to make as many contacts as I can. And so that's number one. Hopefully, your manager and your team already have some things lined up for you. This might be going even beyond that. It can be just grabbing people for coffee. It can be just asking like, hey, what do you like? Show me what you're working on. What do you do here? Those kinds of conversations and meeting people. So meeting people and like planting the seeds for those relationships. Number one. Another action I try to take in my first week. I guess it's kind of an action. Maybe it's more of a behavioral pattern. Is I try to establish a sustainable schedule, right? So I like to come in early, so I try to get into the office like around 8 in the morning. Earlier is even better if I can manage it and still get enough sleep. But something that maybe an easier way of saying something I wouldn't do in my first week is show up at, times that are totally unsustainable, like showing up at 6 a.m. and working until 6 p.m. Overworking or doing something that's not sustainable in terms of setting expectations about when I'm going to be in the office, stuff like that. Another action I try to take in my first week, besides getting tooling set up, is recording, taking notes on my own onboarding experience so that I have things to share and help make onboarding easier for the next person. So documenting my experience of onboarding, anything that you found helpful, add a link, add a note, get that stuff up. Raj says 8 to 4. Raj always goes in at 9:30 and leave early sometimes. Looks like I'm not very good at this. What do you mean not very good at this? your multiple strings in chat. It's great. Yeah, I'd say like in general, I get in between these days, probably between 8 and 9, and I typically leave between 5 and 6, probably more closer to 5:30. Today is a day that normally I would work from home, but I went in, I had an interview and some other meetings that I really had to attend. So today I left the office a little bit earlier so I can get back. That's another thing. Like if you plan on working from home regularly, 1 or however many days a week, that would be something that I would probably do in my first week, just to start setting these kind of expectations and making it clear what's sustainable for you in terms of working patterns. Let me come up with at least one more. I'm thinking back to something else. Asking questions, I'd say, is like a big part of it. Asking questions. Why is this way? What are your thoughts? What are some things that we could do to be better in this area or that area? What's something you wish we were doing but we're not doing right now? Maybe we don't have enough bandwidth. In my case, when I joined AngelList, the team had been without a designer for a little while. So finding out like, okay, what are the like big things you really want a designer to come in and help with? And now we have 3 designers. We can help even more. So finding out some of those things, trying to just testing communications, right? Like getting comfortable. Like for me, it's like slacking people, on figuring out where information is as much as possible, and setting up bookmarks so that you can self-serve and you don't have to ask someone 3 times, hey, where's this information. If you get a piece of information that you think is going to be important and you're likely to want to access it again, cool, start setting up your bookmarks, start putting together your own internal documentation so you can do a lot of that self-serve. I think that's probably about it. I'm trying to think of anything else I did. Was it my first week? Maybe my first week or my first couple weeks, I think I baked something and brought something in. So that kind of thing, like bringing something in, getting people like to associate you with something positive, can also be a fun way to, 1, meet more people, 2, like make new friends that maybe you hadn't interacted with before. Those are a handful. What else do people do? There's other people in chat, right? When you start a new design job, what's something obvious that you do that I didn't mention? I'm curious. I bet we all have our own little things. There's a lot of stuff. You're trying to like ramp up on understanding the users, understanding products, set up your computer, a to-do list for new job. Interesting. All right, I've got now a few like lists to do. Are you typing in 50 claps, or is this claps a thing I don't know about? I'm seeing 50 claps, 100 claps. Are these manual clap counts? To-do. Actually, we are going to do one. We will make one to-do list today. So, oh man, it's already 7. Time flies so much. So fast. I guess much too. Sure, much. To-do lists. First week at new design role. Cool. I'll capture this idea. All right. That's going to be it for questions. I don't know if we have any confirmation. Oh man, it's been a long full day. I don't know if we have confirmation whether people can still upvote or add questions to this document. Can anyone just go in there and like upvote something? Maybe upvote something that we already covered, just so I can see if it works. Is this still a live page, or do I have to create something new? All right, I'll check back later. I'm just gonna sit here refreshing the page, but let me know. Okay, sharing, designer show and tell, or sharing time. So a couple things. One thing, because I like to create and do things, I'll share one little thing I'm thinking about. At the beginning of the year, I set this, I guess for me, an audacious goal of creating 12 Chrome extensions throughout the year. And at first I envisioned it at once a month, and I did one in January, I did one in February, and then I had some ideas about things, but bandwidth wise didn't have the bandwidth for it. And I have an idea for a 3rd Chrome extension. Cool. It looks like Matt said he was able to send something. I just want to confirm. Oh, cool. I see upvotes. Great. That's fantastic. Character counter. So it's not like I need it every day, but there's enough times when I'm doing design work and maybe thinking about design constraints. Character character limit, max character count. That's a perfect design constraint. And it's one that pops itself up enough in my work that I wanted a really easy way to count characters. And I thought, well, you know what? I already have some of these tools like the quick design test that have the filters. You know, I can blur things and do all those cool things. That's great. I have my little to-do extension that I made for to-do list. And now I'm thinking, oh, let me create a little character counter. So I grabbed some, I totally like did this really lean. I grabbed some code that someone else had written. This is probably the easiest way to do projects. If you have something that's, you know, that's common that you can find someone else did well already, then you can use that. And you can see it's like live. You can type and you can check your characters. So let's say I have something, maybe I have a 300 character limit, and I might like do this or paste in something and figure out, okay, I'm almost there. Boom, now I have my like 300 character limit test. Actually, this is another idea that I have. Let me actually capture this here. Maybe, let's see, where do I put this? I'm gonna create a paragraph here. Maybe, or I'll just put idea, provide strings of common lengths to copy and paste. All right, and I'll use inline style, margin top, 64 pixels. There we go. Cool, just an idea. But yeah, simple character counter. So I think my idea is that, right, you'd have a Chrome extension, you pull this out, you pop in your stuff, it tell you how many words and how many characters. I might do a little bit more treatment on the visual design, like I haven't thought about typography and the fonts that I want. The color is just like a placeholder thing I threw in there. But yeah, just as a way of like being accountable and sharing and encouraging other people to create stuff. If you've got an itch that you scratch a few times and you think you can come up with something that's useful for you, it might be worth spending the time to scratch your own itch, solve your own problem, and then if you have the resources, get that into a format where other people can benefit from it as well. I'm not showing my screen. Oh man, I just did this whole like demo thing with me. All right, I gotta stop cutting to my camera. I feel like I get so into it. Thank you, Venego. So here's the thing that I've been talking about, and you've been like, what is it, Adam? What is it? So you can type your text, right? And it's just every key up, it's taking account. So it'll count your words and characters. If you paste something in, no, it's totally not intentional. I'm not used to playing with switching the scenes around so much, so I'm trying to build some muscle memory and some habits around being thoughtful and switching the scenes. So when there's nothing going on the screen, maybe it's more helpful that it's just me and I'm talking and we're having a very like personal, intimate conversation where I'm sharing something, and then when there are interesting things to share, then we go back to the screen and just have it work like magic. I do have the Stream Deck thing. I do have one, but I don't have it set up for. I don't have it set up for my new scenes yet. That's something that I just haven't gotten around to. It's still set up for Twitch stuff. So yes, I think that could help. All right, where was I? Oh yeah, I guess I'll just show you really quick. Right, this is the thing that I'm talking about. Cool, you saw it. You heard me talk about it. It probably, isn't as cool as in your imagination. But for me, it's something that solves a problem. It scratches an itch, and I'm guessing I'm not the only person who occasionally wants to do a really quick character count, and they're tired of like Googling character count and finding some site and seeing all these ads and like janky stuff. And if they had a little Chrome extension, they could just pop that out and do that, and it would work great. Maybe there's even a keyboard shortcut to open it or something cool like that. But that's that. Okay, enough about that. More sharing. So I think I heard about this on Product Hunt. It's this illustration set. It's not free. I don't remember how much it is. $28. That's like one very expensive lunch in San Francisco, or a middling priced dinner somewhere. Maybe it's, I don't know how many Starbucks it is. But there are these pretty cool illustration sets, and I was like, oh, who made this? And so I was doing some, I need to share links. Venagu says, usually opens a word processor, right? And paste to check, like that kind of thing. It's just like, you have to open like a whole nother program. I always have a Chrome browser open. It's exactly like I would do those workarounds too, as well, if I have them. This Craftwork has all kinds of different things. They have a whole bunch of different kind of styles of illustrations. Where's their list of stuff? These are illustrations. They also have like mock-ups and some frames and all kinds of like stuff for displaying UI. It looks like a lot of the things that people use to post on Dribbble. It's kind of the sense I get. So this group of people, this Craftwork Design, I think has some cool stuff. So I wanted to share about that. I also think it's interesting in looking at maybe the evolution, right? I'm assuming, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm assuming the things at the bottom, these illustrations, are much older, or at least older than the brand new thing that they're just promoting, right? And I think it's interesting to kind of see the evolution. I actually think like these juicy illustrations, to me, these are dated. These are not modern illustrations. Maybe that's just my 2 cents. And even like these ones, they're too like generic. They have no faces. They're like these like dummies or mannequins. These feel less modern and compelling than some of these other, what I feel are more modern illustration aesthetics. Anyways, they're doing a bunch of cool stuff. So if you find something that you think will help you there, cool. Now you know. Let's see. I've got one. It looks like one more thing. I'll share 2 more things real quick. ZDog. ZZZ.dog. I don't know where. I didn't know. What's .dog? Is that? What is that domain? I gotta check this out. Sorry. It's gonna bug me. Find your .dog names. Is it really for dogs? Really? It is a .dog? Perfect dog domain. Man's best friend, the dog, has its own name extension. Also for those searching for dog-related services to more easily find. Wow, it actually is dog. That's interesting. Okay. Go dog. So you can be like, oh, who's got what's up dog? Someone bought it, right? Or created a site. It's taking a long time to load. I don't know if that's I don't know what sign that is. Oh, I want to share that thing actually. Dang it. It is, someone registered it. Of course they registered it, but they didn't do anything with it. They're just sitting on it. Actually, I do want to share this one as well. But back to ZDog. It's this pseudo 3D engine for Canvas and SVG. You basically think about things two-dimensionally, and then this ZDog will create these like pseudo 3D experiences. I think the documentation is awesome. Like, I think this is something we could play with. I love that it has examples of the code. It breaks it down. It gives you demos that you can edit on CodePen. You can see like it goes into like zooming and like dragging functionality that you can do. So if anyone makes cool stuff with ZDog, would love to see it. I think it's a fun one. Did I paste it already? Cool, I got it. You can find the get started ZDog thing. I don't really have a specific thing that I would want to do with it right now, so I'm still... I'll find it. I'll find that thing that I'm like, oh, this is totally what I want to use ZDog for. And then just to share an inspiration, I was like, man, the ZDog thing is pretty cool. Like, who made this? Brought to you by Metaphysi. Then I'm like, what's Metaphysi? And Metaphysi has like all these interesting JavaScript plugins. You can sort, right? These kind of like sorting things. You've got this like touch responsive flickable carousels, infinite scroll. It's like gapless layouts. Although I don't know, I mean, to me this is like a big gap. So I don't know exactly what's going on. But then I also saw this thing, Logo Pizza. So I just have to... I wish it would like automatically post the link. Wouldn't that be cool if there was voice control for this YouTube? It's like metaphysi.co. Here's the link. Here's the link, and then it would just appear. And this Dave DeSandro, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, has done this exercise of like creating these sets of icons. So like, I want to practice becoming good at icons, so I'm going to make a bunch of icons, and then I'm going to put them on this website and charge people money for them. Like, some of them I think look really cool, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could totally see people paying money for those. Other ones I'm like, I wonder why someone bought that. But anyways, right, logos, super subjective about taste and preference. Right, I don't know what he started selling them for, but he's currently selling like logos from his latest set for $495. That's pretty amazing. Thought I would share this in case anyone else is big into illustration or logos. I think this is a really cool idea. You basically create this scarcity, right? And you can repeat it. So you can do your, 2019 batch of logos, or your 2019, Q2 batch of logos that you put out there, and then you can potentially sell them. So this is, if you're into logo design or creating logos, I think this is an awesome model for monetizing, especially if your logos are really like wild and interesting. So to me, this is super inspiring. Like, if I had unlimited time and didn't have any other, or just had zero other demands on my time, like playing around making logos sounds like a fun way to spend some time. So that's that one, Logo Pizza. Hey, all right, thank you. Oh yeah, you can subscribe. That always reminds me. I feel weird about this, but you can subscribe to the channel. I think it helps you get updates or let me know when I'm going live. So if you like what we're doing here, or you want to get notified or just help, I think there's like 1,000. I need to get to 1,000 subscribers before I unlock some additional functionality for YouTube. So that's always good. Starting over. I think Twitch, I have several hundred people following. And hopefully some of them are coming over here and knowing to come over here. All right, so that's Logo Pizza. That's it. Yes. All right. That's it for sharing. Anything anyone wanted to share with the rest of us? Anything cool you found? Some new tool, some website? Always interested to find out things that you have discovered as well. And then, let's see, Q&A. I don't think I'm going to do any Lightning portfolio review unless someone really, really wants that. If you really, really want it, send me a link to a portfolio in chat and I'll do a really quick Lightning review. Otherwise, I'm going to start switching gears into project. And the project that I'm going to work on, well, I'm kind of torn. I don't know. I think I'm going to follow my energy. I don't have a ton of energy for doing this largely like text-based thing. I think what I would rather do is play around with this word counter. So let me grab this and get this into Sketch. Stream 3. I've got that, and then I've got focus state. All right, these are this is my simple platform. Okay, so as quickly as possible, I'm going to recreate this. I think I'll use square lines or non-rounded corners because Chrome extension, the little window that pops open, is not going to have rounded corners. So why bother designing for it if it's not going to have it? I guess I'll get sizing. I don't need sizing to be perfect. I'm going to create my rectangles though. Cool, that and that. And then, wow, that's really big text. Let's shrink that down to size. I guess it's even smaller than that, huh? Cool. How many characters should we support? 9,999? Great. We'll do 0 and almost 100k characters. This is not necessarily the font family that I'm going to use, but I just want to get the building blocks in. Words and transform. Come on. Go. Make this even smaller. Cool. There's that. Duplicate. Characters. Boom. Great. Okay, I think that's all I need for here. This will be white. No border. Great. All right, I'm gonna set up some padding. I think I'll try, I'm gonna use an 8 pixel spacing. That's the grid that we use at AngelList these days for our new design system. And it's comfortable and it's familiar. So I'm gonna try that. And wow, it probably doesn't need that much. So maybe we go 32. You'll see that I changed my sketch defaults. So it says 32 now. Now it's 40 on top. I have it set to 8 pixel increments instead of 10, which is the default. And 27. What do I have it at? 32, cool. Let's grab all these. Two, and then 1, 2. Cool. I may have to tweak that as I figure out the text stuff. I think I probably still want the inside, even though I can't round the borders of the Chrome extension itself when it pops up. I think I'll still keep the inside rounded. There was this font that I got introduced to a few weeks ago by the Day One Design Club founder, Michi. And she had this presentation and she used this font called Poppins. And I thought it looks kind of cool. So I might play with that a little bit. It's also more condensed. Regular, bold. What do the numbers look like with that Poppins? Nice. It might be a little bit more playful than I'm going for, but we'll see. I think I'll probably do a couple versions, and I really should have just duplicated this. So I'm gonna group all this together. I'm gonna update the colors really quickly. Well, I think I am, but I'm not pressing the right thing there. There we go. Oh, interesting. The default. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna change the line height. And I'm gonna put 4 pixels of space. Oh no, I'm not. I'm gonna put, that's interesting. 8 pixels of space between. That will allow for commas. So that's a group. And that's a group. And these things aren't centered. There we go. Let's make sure the text alignment is centered as well. Boom. And let's put some space in between. All right, getting better, getting better. Fantastic. And then this needs to go 9 pixels more. Oops, I did not have the rectangle selected. Cool. All right. There's type or paste your text here. That's Poppins. All these things grouped together. It's not what I wanted. Let's move these off to the side. We'll group this, duplicate it, and then I'm gonna do it in a few different font families, and then we'll do like a few different colors. I'll just quickly try to get to something that feels good. I'm gonna use Montserrat, not monster. Montserrat. What? There it is. Montserrat. I use that on my own website. Man, the comma's kind of ugly for that font, huh? Interesting. I never noticed that. I did not notice that. And do it in here as well. Cool. What do I have for font sizes? Are these thoughtful at all? 16, 40, 16, 40. Cool. That works. I suppose I should see spacing should be. Oh, spacing is different. Why is it different? It's because this. Why is it different? (19, 16, 19 is 8 pixels away. This is 40 high. This is 40 high. Huh. I don't understand how the math is working out that these things are so different. But in this case, it's like 4 pixels will be plenty of space. Oh, did I? No? And put that down there. Let me change that 34. Actually, I think I'm going to tweak that a little bit to adjust the spacing in between, group it, and then vertically align that so it's not perfectly top aligned. What's another more dramatic font family to use? I'm gonna do a mono font. So how about Roboto Mono? Wait, I can select. Why don't I select all of these? That would be more efficient, huh? I also hit the caps lock. Roboto condensed. No, Roboto Mono. There we go. Ah, I know something I also didn't do. I'll go back here. What padding do I want inside? 16 probably. 16. So I'm going to position that 16 pixels from the top and the left. Eric, thank you for subscribing. Appreciate it. There we go. Cool. Oh, this doesn't have. Alright, this isn't gonna have the nice tweaks I made to the other one. So 4 pixels. 4 pixels. I also noticed this is on. It's not on a pixel grid. It's like half a pixel off. That's odd. I didn't look at these other ones. Ah, there we go. Around a pixel. I don't think, is there a setting in Sketch, does anyone know, to force it to round to pixel automatically? Layers, blah, 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 plugins, data, libraries, presets. No, cloud. I don't see anything. Here you can set the number of pixels, but I don't see anything about like forcing to whole pixels, which is a bummer. So this is fun. This is going to be 4265. That one's actually going to wrap because it's wider. I'll group those and going to vertex. Ooh, what happened? 32. There we go. Cool. So those are a few different ones. What's another very different one? Let's see, what don't I have represented? A serif. A serif or a slab? Let's grab all the rest of these here. Roboto slab. Nah. I'm gonna do, not that. It's not what I want to do. How about Playfair display? It's a very serify font. That one does not. That doesn't work for me. Open Sans. Just kind of plain vanilla. Helvetica. Right, you can always go there. All right, I think, and actually, when I see these different font families, actually, to me, they inspire different colors. Like for me, this is much darker. And maybe less saturated. It could also be, I think I'm actually liking this one the most. So maybe I just play with this one for a little bit. What other color is going to be high contrast? Green color. If you have ideas in chat, let me know. This one, maybe this could be like also similar. A dark theme. I don't know if that's too crazy. I think this would have to be darker, right? In that case, it probably needs a border if it's going to be much lower contrast. I don't know. People in chat, what do you think? Is there some direction here that clicks with you? This is like, I really want something, I just want something really simple and clean. And I might even just make it all white. No opacity. Maybe drop that down. And drop this down. I'll check with color contrast. I'm just kind of playing with some. Does square border radius better? Also, I guess I should think about the contrast between the text that you paste in and the word count. The word count is really what you're there for, right? So I think these patterns do a little bit better in emphasizing the counts. So I want the numbers to stand out. I want the text that you paste to not really matter that much. This one, it's quite high contrast, right? All right, I think I'm going to play with one other option that's like this one. And I'm going to try let's group this. And I'm going to try making the area that you paste full height. That was 217, 218. Is there a border on this thing? Yuck. Okay, get rid of the border. And then I can just have a clear divider. This is nice, it'll give it more room. 8 plus 16. I can give even more room for the text. And then this can come a little closer. 32, 32, and I can subtract by 9. Hopefully this illustrates some of the path of like design, right? You often like start with an idea, you're playing around with things, you're experimenting. Oftentimes you have to see something to start thinking about, oh, I see these two, I can compare and I can think about, oh, okay, which is more important? This looks really important, has really high contrast. It's kind of competing with really what's the most important stuff. Okay, some of these are lower contrast, so how do I keep that low contrast? What's bugging me about it? Well, what's bugging me is the straight corners, because Chrome extension, the little pop-up windows, you can't have rounded corners. And then I have rounded corners inside. There's a lot of like negative space. That's, to me, like not the most elegant. Moving towards something that's like even further simplified. Now I've got these two blocks. I've got an area to paste your text in, and then the actual counts. I think this is working. I think this might be it. I don't know if the color is a problem. I'll have to try. I can try a few different things. Do I have Stark here? So I have color blindness simulation. I need at least one artboard. Okay, cool. So I'll make this an artboard. Now I can do it. What is it doing? That's weird. Let me try this again. So you can see what the Start plugin is doing. It's looking at something else. I don't know what. This is the artboard I have selected. There's no other artboard I can select. So slow. Abort. All right, maybe we have to restart Sketch. Force quit. Come on back. And we're back. All right, so can I paste into a Chrome browser? I wonder what happens. No, you can't paste. That would be cool. Because then I could use my little plugin on it. All right, so next steps. I'm gonna check contrast using a tool. I'll make this small. Can I show this over here? Cool, I've got enough of it. Let me actually hide the layers. Show layer list. Cool, I've got that. And then this piece, I'll come over here and contrastratio.com. This is a beautiful tool. Let's see, let's hide. No, I'll need the inspector. So my background is this. So here's my background. This hex color. And this is my green color. HSL 144. What was it? 144, 163, 70. 163, 70. Interesting. That I got very close to the minimum 4.5. I wanted it to be lower contrast than the white, and I wanted it to meet the small text accessibility guideline, which I should check. It's 16 text. It probably needs to be a little bit bigger than that. What's the top one? 40? 24 seems big. Maybe, what's the actual size? Here's 100. Maybe I'll do 20. Cool. That's gonna be plenty big. And then I can even go 69 is 4.5, 68. Okay, 69 is it. So I'll go one down, 69, and add that. Cool. I'll do the same here. 69. 0 words, 99. I wonder if I can get... Alright, you're not going to be... I don't think anyone's going to be realistically... It's going to be pasting in more than that number of characters. That's fantastic. Now I need to... I'm just going to tweak this since I changed my size. I want to make sure I have the spacing there. (24) 32. I need to make this 10 plus 10. 28. Nice. Okay. Now I've got this. All right, and then I'm gonna grab this color. This hex for the input, and then this color, which is 144, 163, 70. And I can see here that's no bueno for smaller text. So I've got two options. I can increase the font size significantly, or I can increase the contrast. So I think I'm going to play with the contrast. 80 is getting close. 90 is definitely there. So 85, 84, 83, 84. Okay. So if I do 84, that should be sufficient contrast. 24. Nice. Type or paste your text here. These are the words. These are the characters. I wonder if these should be gray. I'm gonna overthink it too much. It works for me. This is a solve your own itch kind of problem. So let's do it. 64, 84. Interesting. That's not centered in this section. Is it? What? 82, 102. Oh, I see. The words. 64, 84. Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. My shortcut broken? $74, $74. Okay, that makes sense. 2020. Yep. Ooh, interesting. I don't have enough space on either side now. I need to extend this by 8. And now I have the issue of this. I think the simple thing to do is just align those. Cool. I'm confident those are aligned. This thing has 24 pixels of space and 32. Ralph, no worries. We've got a few minutes left. Any burning questions on your mind? Just wrapping up this little extension, Chrome extension, the design for this Chrome extension. I think I've got it to where I want it. I just did contrast ratio checking, so everything's gonna be good accessibility wise in terms of color contrast. And I guess, do I want to brand this thing? That's I mean, right now it's just unbranded. anyone have a clever idea for a word and character counter? Maybe I just put, I don't know. I won't worry about putting anything. I'm just going to get this translated into the code right now. So I've got my code pen here, and I'm going to adjust this stuff. So I've got a little bit of work to do, right? Let's see. This whole thing is 530. This wrapper should be 530 pixels. Great. I think I set the stuff to flex, where I think I don't want flex anymore. Flex stuff, here we go. Flex, flex, flex. Comment out the flex. And then the text area is going to be 313 pixels. 313 by what? By 228. 228. The wrapper is going to be position relative. So we can do absolute position inside. And then the text area, here we go. Position absolute. Top 0, left 0. Uh-oh, I did something. What did I do? Invalid. Oh, I'm using SAS as my preprocessor, so no semicolons allowed. There's that. Whoa, wait a minute. Is it supposed to be that big? Something's off here. What is off? Text area, border, padding, resize, width, height, 228 pixels. That all looks good. How tall is it? 262 pixels. 262. It should be, what did I say? 228. So that's the 32. All right, we'll figure that out in a minute. Is this like box? Ugh. Box sizing issue. Border box. Content box. Okay, I've only got a few minutes left. Let's kill the border radius. Let's try to get some colors in. We want no border. Boom. Okay, colors, what did we say this was? I think I have the color here. Great. Got this hex. So we can pop in text area, background. Background. Boom. And then color. HSLA. And I should have that as well. Yes, got that here. What's wrong with this? HSLA. Doesn't need to be in percent. What's going on? Why? Oh, I see. It's not, it's the placeholder color when you do effect. All right. All right, I hear the garage door opening, so that means my wife is back. And that means it's time for me to get going with dinner. Quick thanks to everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you participating. I love seeing you guys help each other out. Matt, Venagu, Ralph, Mr. Raj, Eric, and everyone else for joining in. Thank you so much. Hope to have this. I don't know if I'll find time to wrap this up before next week. If not, I'll finish this up and hopefully do some more portfolios, of course, portfolio reviews, and more sharing. If you have questions in the meantime, I'll just end with that. And a plug with, as you think of questions, maybe bookmark that. Go ahead and throw your questions and stuff in there. Until next week, happy designing and be kind. Bye now.